myself out.
I am afraid of...
I'm terrified and paralyzed by...
I am deathly afraid of...
Welcome to the Sum of All Fears podcast with your host, me, Ryan Perrio. Hello and welcome to the Sum of All Fears podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Perrio. This week, we conclude my live interviews from the Hops and Arts Festival at Peticolas Brewery in Dallas, Texas, with baker and delicious taco maker, Manuel Maroches. Manuel has been doing Maroches Bakery out of Oak Cliff. I can't imagine what his baked goods have got to be like, because his tacos were downright delicious. I had them both nights. They were pork with pineapple, chicken, beef, and had chicharrones and all kinds of other vegetables, and they were amazing to eat. It was a great way to end my podcast interview each night while I was there at Peticolas Brewery. It was a real fun conversation. We talk about his start in baking and why he's gone traditional, and then we get into his fear of cooking for his parents, which I can totally relate to because I have cooked for my parents so many times and tried to make things, and there's so much anxiety that goes into that. But let's get into this quick interview here with Manuel Maroches. All right, guys, we got a special guest here, Manuel Maroches, the man making your delicious tacos today. Look at that. You're getting a standing ovation for these tacos right now. That's how good your food is right now, Manuel.
Thank you.
So, how did you get into chefing?
Well, first of all, I didn't have any plans on cooking, baking when we got here in Dallas like 30 years ago. I didn't have any clue. At first, I worked as a plumber, electrician, selling Mexican cowboy boots at the flea markets. And all of a sudden, we were missing when you gather with your family, you prepare special food, desserts. We started cooking, and my neighbors started smelling the flavors, everything, and like, what are you doing? Choco flan, you want to try it? Every time my neighbors had a party, they asked us to bake the dessert for the party. And after a while, we decided to open a little shop. And that was 21 years ago. And on the first year, it was crazy. It's very difficult because you had to compete with all these supermarkets, French bakeries, German bakeries. And we took a big decision on, okay, let's keep it traditional. We ain't gonna copy anyone's recipes or the way they do their stuff, because we want to be original.
Yeah,
like representing where we come from, where we grow up, and if you like my tacos, wait until you try my cakes and the flan, because that's the first thing.
Yes,
I started cooking because I saw the need pop-ups, little shops that didn't have a plan B. They always order from pizza places, food trucks, and I'm like, hey, you have the space, you have the kitchen, why don't you cook? No, you cook. Like, okay. Like the way they play with you,
yeah.
Like, no, okay, I'll do it, and I still do it.
That's awesome. Well, it's cool that it just kind of slowly, like family-wise, were you a kid that stayed in the kitchen with the family?
Yes.
Like you were always in the kitchen while they were making food, stealing?
It is funny because I didn't go to school to learn how to bake or cook. I only went to get my food license at school and take a few classes of culinary arts. That's it. But the rest I learned through my mother. Like, hey, pass me the sugar, pass me that.
Mm-hmm.
Take 5 minutes, put this, that, and voila.
So how, like, when you started taking over that role of actually cooking it, how much input did your mom have? Because your mom would as soon as you did it, like, too much salt, or just have the small.
It's more like, okay, the expression, face.
Yeah.
Expression that it goes like no wrinkles in the eye, nothing. You're okay. I did something wrong.
Yeah.
But it was fun.
To me, that's the best cooking school, though, is when you do learn from your mother, your grandmother, your aunt.
Yes, because when you repeat the recipe, you have these memories.
Yeah.
Every time you taste it, remember that time we were with grandma in this place and she used to burn this thing, but it tastes delicious.
Yeah, that's mine.
Wow. But it is like that. And that's the thing. When you keep something original and traditional, every time you taste it, something comes to your mind. Like, okay, I tasted this before.
Yeah.
Where? Like,
and it's not a set recipe. You're not. You're not. Your grandmothers and everybody that's lived in a kitchen can tell you without a precise measurement where you're off, where your ratios are off. And so I was like I told you out there. I did cooking school.
You can tell by the smell. Like you can decipher. Like okay, meat, chicken with this and that, but you get these other smells. Like let me see.
Yeah, but you get times, you get ratios. Everything is a memory. It's not a set increment.
It's an art.
Yes.
Because like musicians, they write this hundreds of songs, and sometimes they don't write it. They have it right here on the black box on the brain. And what happens when a musician try to remember a song? They don't sing it out loud. They hum.
Yeah.
So it's the same when you're cooking or baking. You go by the smell because you have all the ingredients, but you go try it and smell. Okay, this and that because you don't remember the exact recipe.
Yeah.
But you have it right here in your nose, and then you either identify the ingredients, and voila.
Yes.
It's the same thing.
So my podcast is about fears.
Oh my God!
Come on, Manuel. What are you afraid of?
What I'm afraid of? That people don't like what I'm cooking or baking.
That is a very legitimate fear. Like especially like I said, when you're growing up cooking in a kitchen with people that have been doing it for years,
yes,
and you're trying to impress them, and it's got to be terrifying to present something maybe original that to your mom that maybe she wouldn't have cooked, and it's like breaking tradition. You know, that's a legit fear because it's something that they have done their way their whole lives, and you're totally potentially, you're challenging that. And
I know that reminds me of this time I didn't use butter, but I had to put margarine, and she looked at me kind of weird. And by the time I went to the store and bought butter, I use this brand.
Yeah.
But she's like, no, you're not convincing me. Like with the way she was looking at me, like, oh, thank you.
Where can people find you on social media?
Okay, Facebook, look for Maroches Bakery Inc. or Instagram, Maroches DFW.
Okay, definitely. We'll definitely do that. Thank you again, Manuel.
Thank you.
I appreciate that time. And have a great rest of the festival.
I will.
So that was Manuel. I totally relate to that fear. Every time I make something for my mother or my dad or when my grandmother was alive, my grandmother, just trying to get it right and just trying to impress them with my cooking was such an anxiety trip because you try so hard and you want them to enjoy your meal, and then you have to sit there and wait for their response, and it feels like forever. I can tell you that I've had some failures, like last Thanksgiving when I tried to make lemon cheesecakes for my mother, and they did not turn out the way I intended. Mainly because I forgot the egg in my haste to try to make this delicious dessert, and it just was a nightmare. And so hopefully I can recreate the magic. Speaking of magic, Thanks again to Sarah and the Usual Art Specs for having me there for 2 days to interview the artists. That was a really fun, really interesting, and really outside my comfort zone kind of experience that I can say was really empowering, really fun to do, and just really kind of helped me with my interview process as I just got a crash course in live podcasting. Thanks again to Oscar for letting me use his equipment. It was fantastic, to be able to do that. I hope to do it again for them soon. Thanks again to Manuel for the tacos. They were fantastic. They were chicken and beef with chicharrones and pineapple pastor, and they were so delicious. It was wonderful to get that interview in with him, as well as the other artists that were there, Jeff, Katie, Candace, even the author, Jackie. And it was a really fun time, and I love meeting all those people, and hopefully we'll get to do this again. No, put down a different fear next time, and we'll have more interviews with them. I have some more new interviews on the way, though, while we wait. I've gotten some recorded back in September, some even earlier than that. I'm going to try to be getting more interviews every Saturday, 1 or 2, as well as anytime I can do a live ones. I may do some live ones at a bar while I am waiting to go up at a open mic, and so it's just ways to maximize my time to kind of get as much done as I possibly can. 59 episodes in. I apologize. This one is a little short. We were running low on time at the Hops and Arts Festival, and I wanted to try to get as much honest and efficient interview as I possibly could with Manuel. And there's some more I want to get from the festival that I didn't, I feel like just didn't get an honest, full, who are you and everything else before we had to switch over to Oscar and the music. And I apologize again to Oscar. I felt like I cut into his time. I appreciate everybody being so gracious and humble with their time at the Hops and Arts Festival. It was really fun. Thank you guys for listening and leaving reviews. Please, if you do enjoy the show, leave a review. It helps the visibility and exposure to the podcast. Recently got headshots with Sam Brand today, so I will have some new headshots with Sam Brand. I'll probably get some more, other content coming up on the Instagram as well as Twitter. I thank you guys for listening. We're going into October of year 1. Like, we're already a year and a month in to the podcast. I'm going to try to get some more Halloweenish kind of fears. Perhaps nothing as on the nose as we had last year with Danny Gallagher and his fear of haunted houses. But we will have some kind of, more, fears that are, Halloween spirit. Next week will be Melissa May Curtis, co-star of the Netflix series Pet Stars, which is a reality show about pets, where they actually get the pet. They are the representation for pets that you see in commercials and movies. And so they represent a lot of animals, and so their Netflix series is about that. And we will discuss her role in that as well as her fear starting next week. I thank you guys again for listening to the Sum of All Fears podcast. Have a wonderful week. And now some thank yous for the folks that make this show possible. Thanks to Barry Whitewater for my art and graphics. You can follow him on Instagram at bwhiteh2o. Get it? H2O like water. You can also follow him on Facebook, Music. A huge thank you to Gunnar Olsen for the wonderful music provided for this podcast. You can follow him on Instagram at gunbuns, that's GUNBUNS, as well as his website, gunnarolsen.net. Check out some of the samples that he has recorded. They're amazing. He's an amazing percussionist. If you want to follow the show, we've got a Facebook group, Some of All Fears. Instagram, Twitter, you can find us at Some Fear Fans. If you have some feedback for the show, email me at somefearfans, SOMEFEARFANS @gmail.com. I'll be happy to take those into consideration. Also, if you'd like to be a guest, email me at somefearfans@gmail.com. We can try to iron out some details and get that settled in. Give us some feedback. If on Apple, Google, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts, leave a review. It makes the show bigger, and it's not going anywhere. I'm going to record as many shows as I possibly can. If you want to follow me on social media, I am at Ryan Perio. It's RyanPerio on all social media platforms. You can follow me there, and you can check me out at ryanperio.com, my website. I'll try to list upcoming shows there as well. It's been kind of spotty because as soon as I set it up, that's when the pandemic happened, and everything's kind of just in a holding pattern. Thanks again for listening to the Some of All Fears podcast. Next week, we'll have another guest with another fear. Thanks for listening.